This is the barbell hip thrust, which is one of my favorite glute building exercises. It trains the glutes in a shortened position when compared to something like an RDL, which trains the glutes in a lengthened position. The most difficult part of the rep is at lockout, so at the top of the repetition when your hips are fully extended and you've got a straight line from your knee to your hip and shoulder. When setting up this exercise, you could use a bench like I'm using here, but you want to make sure that you push it up against a surface so that it won't slide or tip over. You can also use a box or any other surface that you think is safe and effective. Just make sure the height of the bench or box that you choose is at a level where when you get to lockout, your body is parallel to the ground. So if you choose a box that's too high or too low, your body will be on an angle which just doesn't optimize tension at the top of the repetition. Next, you want to position your upper back or your scapulars on the edge of the bench or the box. I recommend doing a few reps without any load at all, just with your body weight, just so you can practice the range of motion and get a feel for the exercise. It's also really important to use large bumper plates for this exercise. Even if you're doing very lightweight with, say, 5 kilos each side, go for the biggest bumper plates you can get, because that gives you enough space to actually roll the bar over your legs and get in position so that you can start this exercise. If you use plates that are too small, it's extremely difficult to get set up for this exercise. Then you want to position your feet so that at the top of the range of motion, where your hips are locked out, your feet are pretty much under your knees. If your feet are too close to the barbell or too close to your hips, it becomes more of a quad dominant exercise. And if your feet are too far out in front of you, so imagine your feet are out in front of your knees, well then it becomes a little bit more of a hamstring dominant exercise. If you just want to really isolate the glutes and get an incredible mind-muscle connection, I like to keep my feet pretty much under my knees. Position the bar on your pelvis where your hip crease is. So just find a position that's comfortable for you, where you can develop maximal tension through your glutes. Sometimes if you get pretty heavy loads on the barbell for this exercise, it can be a little bit uncomfortable. I've seen people using 4 or 5 plates each side if they've got very strong glutes, in which case you might want to roll up a towel or use one of those barbell protectors, which is like a foamy accessory that makes it a little bit more comfortable. It also helps to keep your hands on the bar at all times, just to make sure it's in the correct position and most comfortable. At the start of the repetition, so at the bottom of the rep, you want to make sure that the bumper plates are about an inch or so above the ground. Basically, you want the barbell hovering. You don't want the plates on the ground as a dead stop. That way you'll be able to maximize tension on the glutes throughout the full range of motion. At the bottom of the repetition, you'll notice that my back or spine is in a straight line with my head and neck in a neutral position. And then as I thrust my hips up towards the ceiling, my scapulars or traps will go back onto that bench behind me, and my head and neck will stay in that neutral position, so I'll be looking up at the ceiling at the top of the repetition. Remember to keep your toes and your knees in a straight line facing forward. You don't want your knees caving in across your body, so you want to think knees out as you push up towards the ceiling. And of course, think about that mind-muscle connection. This is a glute exercise. Your quads are definitely going to do some work here, but try to focus on the glutes as much as possible. It also helps to try to create a posterior pelvic tilt, so tucking your pelvis under or up towards the ceiling. That will allow the glutes to contract even more.